When you're adding fractions with like denominators, your denominator is going to stay the same in your answer. So you can go ahead and move that right over. Then all you need to do is add the numerators. 2 plus 3 equals 5. Then you need to check to make sure whether or not the answer can be simplified or reduced. 5/8 cannot be reduced. Therefore, this is in its simplest form, and that's your answer. So here's another example of adding two fractions that have like denominators. Again, you see the like denominators at the bottom of the fraction. If they are the same, you can bring that denominator right over into your answer, and then continue by adding your numerators. 4 plus 2 equals 6. Now, knowing what I know about even numbers, and when I have a numerator and a denominator that are both even numbers, I know that that can be simplified or reduced to a lower term by dividing by 2. So if I divide 6 by 2, I get 3. And if I divide 10 by 2, I get 5. So after I reduce my 6/10 to its lowest form, I get 3/5. Subtracting fractions with like denominators is very similar to adding them, except now you're subtracting. The same rule applies. If the denominators are the same, you're going to bring that right over into your answer, and then you would subtract your numerators. 8 minus 2 equals 6. If I look at 6 and I look at 9, I can see that they have something in common, and that something in common is a factor of 3. So I'm going to divide 6 by 3 and 9 by 3 so that I can reduce my 6/9 into its lowest terms. 6 divided by 3 equals 2. 9 divided by 3 equals 3. So my lowest form would be 2/3. So after subtracting 8/9 minus 2/9, I get 6/9, which can then be reduced because both numbers have a common factor, which is 3. We divide that to reduce it down to 2/3 as our final answer. Before I go on to explaining how to add and subtract mixed numbers, I just want to review what a mixed number is. A mixed number is a whole number, such as 3, and a fraction, such as 2/3. This can be demonstrated by writing it just as I did, or I could show you a model. If I have 4 circles here, and they're all divided into 3 parts, and the reason I'm dividing them into 3 parts is because if you look at the fraction, that is what the fraction is divided into, so all of them must be divided into that. So then I will show that I'm representing the whole number by 3 out of 3 of each of these models are filled in. So this is 3/3 or 1 whole. This is 3/3 or 1 whole. This is 3/3 or 1 whole, and that's where I'm getting my 3 from. My 2/3 would come from here and here. So 2 out of my 3 are represented in that 4th model. Oops. I wrote a 2, meant to write a 3. Just fix that for you. So that's where my fraction is coming from, that last model. One other thing I want to go over with regards to mixed number is turning an improper fraction into a mixed number. So if I have 13/7, I want to ask myself, how many groups of 7 can I make out of 13? Well, 7 times 1 is 7, and then 7 times 2 would be 14. So I can't make two whole groups, so that means I have one group. 7 times 1 is 7. So then I take 13, which is my total amount. 13 minus 7 leaves me with 6 left over. So my fraction becomes 6, and my denominator remains the same. So 1 and 6/7. The other way to look at that is to think about division. If I have 13 divided by 7, remember we're looking at 13/7 as our improper fraction. 7 can go into 13 one time. 7 times 1 is 7. 13 minus 7 is 6. There's nothing left to bring down or divide, so I have a remainder of 6. So I can then write my mixed number from this division problem. That 1 is my whole number. The remainder becomes my numerator. And the number in which I'm dividing by is my denominator. Also, your denominator is going to stay the same. So that's just a review of how mixed numbers can be created using an improper fraction. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to add and subtract mixed numbers with like denominators. Let's start with an addition problem. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to add your whole numbers. My whole numbers are 4 and 5. So 4 plus 5 is 9. Remember, our whole number needs to be bigger than our numbers being used in the fractions because a whole is bigger than a fraction. Moving on, next thing I'm going to do is notice the denominators are the same, so I can go ahead and move that denominator right over into my answer, which leaves me now with only my numerators to add. 2 plus 3 equals 5. And I can see that 5/7, those are both prime numbers and cannot be reduced any further. So then let's move on to a subtraction problem. Very similar, just a different operation. Again, we're going to start with our whole numbers. 9 minus 3 equals 6. Then, again, look at your denominators. They are the same. So we're going to bring that right over into our answer. And then I have a 5, and I'm subtracting a 3, and that's going to leave me with 2. Now both the numerator and the denominator in my answer, 6 and 2/6, are both even. So I can reduce 2/6 lower than that. So I'm going to divide 2 by 2 and 6 by 2, because what you do to the numerator, you must do to the denominator. So I'm just going to write my new fraction up here because I've run out of room. My whole number remains the same. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So when I reduce 6 and 2/6, I come up with 6 1/3. And that's how you add and subtract mixed numbers using like denominators. The last thing I'm going to show you in this screencast is how to multiply a fraction by a whole number. We need to remember that when we have a whole number, for example 3, I can make that whole number into a fraction by putting it over 1. 3 divided by 1 is 3. So any whole number can become a fraction by placing it over a 1. So keep that in mind as I go through the examples we're about to see. Okay, so let's use 3 again as an example. And we're going to multiply 3 times 2/9. So what I would do then is I would rewrite my fraction 3 over 1 times 2 over 9. And then I would just multiply straight across. 3 times 2 equals 6. 1 times 9 equals 9. So 3 times 2 ninths equals 6 ninths, or in simplest form, we can reduce 6 ninths by 3. So that becomes 2/3 in its simplest form. Let's go over another example. Let's say I have 5 times 3/4. If I have 5 times 3/4, again, I'm going to put that 5 right over a 1. So now I'm going to multiply straight across. 15, 1 times 4 is 4. And now I have an improper fraction, which brings us back to turning an improper fraction into a mixed number. So then I'm going to take 15 and I'm going to divide it by 4. 4 goes into 15 3 full times. 4 times 3 equals 12. We have 3 left over. So my mixed number becomes 3 and 3/4.